Let's get this thing moving. There's another thing later, so we need to be quick. There's a thing at David Dove is putting on a Cons on the roof of Cons, a solid free jazz group. But let's do this first. So I started to get interested in Joseph Beuys in the 90s, reading about him, and his name would come up a lot in German free jazz liner notes. Peter Britzman worked with him, and he did things at the Galler in Wuppertal that all the Fluxus people did things at. Cobalt worked with him, the great bass player Peter Cobalt. So I would start to read his name and these music liner notes, and his work would come up in discussions about experimental music and free jazz, and specifically in Germany. And so I started to study the work and slowly study it, slowly read about it. The first piece that I actually saw were the pieces that were shown earlier, the big fat tallow pieces at the Hamburger Bahnhof in Berlin. And I was there to play a free jazz festival at the Total Music Meeting in 2002, and a Portuguese flute player said, "Hey, do you want to go look at these Joseph Beuys things?" And I said, "Of course I do, let's go." And so we went. It was very nice, and I started to collect the books and read about him and study about him. And an interesting thing about tying this whole event back together in terms of the name, the I like Houston, Houston likes me, and all that stuff, is that before I lived in Houston, I came here in 2005 and saw the Beuys exhibition at the Manil and went home. I didn't play any concerts, I just came and looked at the Twombly, looked at the Beuys. I had no idea I would have lived in Houston then. And when I got back, I made an album. I was making an album with some musicians. And one of the musicians was a really lovely guitar player, but he was playing notes very quickly the whole time. And I was saying, look, man, you can't, you can play notes or you can play all the time, but you can't do both. You have to either stop or you have to make some other sounds. And then I looked in the corner and I saw a broom. And I said, in fact, put your guitar on the floor and just play with this broom. Because I didn't want him to play like virtuoso guitar for the rest of the session. And in the time, and that was in 2006, and the interesting thing about that, and I don't want to make this any kind of critique exactly, but a lot of people really grab onto this social aspect of social sculpture of Beuys, which I think is very important. And that's something that's been really important to me in terms of the politics of improvised music. When you're improvising music with people, you're dealing with the political structure. And if you want to sculpt that structure, Beuys' ideas have a lot of information for you to make this music, because it's ostensibly free music. When I'm not telling someone to play their guitar on the floor with a broom, it's free. And so his ideas can really help navigate a free social situation. At the same time, a lot of the social art that I end up seeing doesn't contain the aesthetic aspect that Beuys was able to imbue every one of his pieces. Every one of his pieces worked as an artwork. And some of them worked as a social thing, some of them didn't. But of course, the one that I always bring up to people who are doing these big projects, I'm doing this thing, maybe it's a garden, maybe it's a boat, maybe it's another thing. And I always talk about Beuys' 7,000 oaks. It's 7,000 oak trees, which 100% works as a graining of castle. And there's 7,000 basalt stones, so it absolutely works as a sculpture. And I think that's the important thing. If you do a community garden that can't even feed a family and there's no aesthetic artwork to it, it just doesn't really work on either end. And so in the time that I've studied Beuys and I've experienced his influence in the world, I'm actually more and more proud that this piece of mine deals with his aesthetics, which is the broom, and it's about his piece Auswegen, which is here where he swept Karl Marxplatz and had the broom put in the vitrine, and there's a recording of it, and that's what this piece is. That's what I was thinking of when I said, hey, there's a broom, play your guitar at the broom, there's that beautiful Beuys piece, do this now. And I was also thinking for myself, I'm playing two basses on the floor, the sort of secondary person is Bryce Martin, who used a stick to distance himself from the canvas to make these beautiful drawings on, but they're paintings, but these kind of drawing type paintings. And so I'm more and more proud that it deals with Beuys' aesthetics more than his politics, because I think that's what's more, at this point in 2014, what gets lost about his work is the fact that he was an incredible artist with bodies of work with drawings, bodies of sculpture, and absolutely first-rate contemporary modern artists. And these social things happen too, and they're very important and they have an impact. But I think what you see now too often, there's no artwork to the thing, and it's almost like somebody's, I don't want to go too far into this, but it's almost like an artist is too embarrassed that they're an artist and they want to be active in the problems of society. But like, if you're an artist, you need to, I think that a society worth saving needs culture. So people need to remember to contribute to the cultural aspect of it, and that often gets lost in what's called social sculpture these days. And so I'm very proud that this deals with the art side. And the last thing that I'll say, I have this CD for sale that has this piece on it. The lady who owns Auswegen in Germany, in Berlin, bought the CD, which is very nice. So, okay, so we're going to play. It's going to be about 10 minutes. It's not going to be very loud. And this is the Houston version has 2 guitars. Sandy and Ryan are going to play 2 guitars. I'm going to play 2 basses, which is on the CD. The new part is that Beuys was really into ideas of conducting heat, conducting warmth, dealing with this whole thing of Germany's open wound and these other problems. And he had these other fantastic sculptures with like layers of copper and felt with like jumper cable type things between them. And so what I've got between the 2 basses is a wooden dowel that conducts the sound between the 2 basses. So the original recording didn't have that. So that's about it. Okay, so we'll play. Thanks for...
Okay, Rebecca
Novak will solo over the piece.
And our final performance for the evening will be Alex Tu and Carrie Schneider. It's their dedication to one of Beuys' actions titled Chief. Alex, do you need... Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I think it's just gonna happen.